think that'll do. Maybe this. 2 weeks ago I went climbing with Ross in Wales on the Slate because we were staying in Llanberis with about 15 pals and we love the Slate, it's just so good to climb on. So we spent 2 days basically aiming to just have huge adventures, big extreme days out, doing a load of cool routes which added up to give this amazing experience of moving through a place. So one of the days, the routes that we did didn't really matter, we just wanted to climb a lot of hard stuff, hard for us, and feel like we've gone on an adventure. And then the second day, we tried to get the same idea of adventure, but doing lots of individual routes that we really wanted to do in different places. For the first day, we were in the quarries near Llanberis, and there's a part of it called Australia, which is made up of all these levels. So you've got, the hillside is like this, and they've quarried down, so there's a vertical face and then a level, vertical face and a level, vertical face level. So you get about, I think, 8 or 9 of them. And there's a few routes. There's a very trad day out, an extreme day out, which go up to E4, that go all the way from the bottom to the top, and you do 8 or 9 pitches. So a year or two ago, we did an extreme day out, had one of the best days climbing ever, and Ross, the first thing he said when we went to Wales was, I want to do an extreme day out. So what we did instead was we got the same idea and made up our own route, which is fantastic. So did the same E3 starter, but added in about 4, 5, 6 more E3s along the way to make a new day out. It's very fun. So we started on the very bottom slab, even further down than an extreme day out starts, which I think gets VS, but in reality is a VDiff solo. So you walk up this slab, and there's no gear at all, and you can, I was in these trainers I think, and you can just walk down it facing outwards. It's so grippy and it's so slabby. So we walked up that with our big rucksacks. We left our rucksacks at the very bottom. So we went through a cave, got to the bottom of the whole of Australia, left our bags there, walked up this VS to start the day, went across to Off the Beaten Track, which is this phenomenal E3. I think it's 4 bolts in about 30 metres, and that's all the gear you get. I really like the style of climbing I really love, where it's little slate edges, and a lot of the time you get an edge. There won't be very many feet. You've got to pick out the little nubbin, mantle up onto it, get yourself up onto it, press up with no hands, just like Johnny Dawson against the wall, like balancing on one foot like that, until you can properly stand upright, get yourself back in balance, and then there'll be like a little crimp and something, move up again, eventually reach like a big rail, and you do the same move again, like you're standing up and then you're getting up onto it and then you're going up like this. So it's 30 metres of that, which is just fantastic. And then eventually at the top, there are these 2 old railway tracks which stick off the very top of the crag. And you go for them, and I jumped for them because I was on second. And you dangle off these tracks and pull up through and do like a tricep dip to get over the top of the crag. And that's Off the Beaten Track, E3 5C. Really good way to start the day. The next route we tried to do was Glass Axe and E5 6C. I started up it, didn't get very far, and very quickly escaped onto sort of an E1 type thing, basically like a 6B sport climb, but the hangers had been taken off the bolts, like unscrewed from it, so I was putting nuts over them instead, so it felt quite traddy. That was a really lovely route. Ran round the side and did the alternative that we were going to do if we couldn't do Glass Axe, which was Puffing Billy, which is a severe. So we soloed that, really nice moves, and then went on to another E3. I can't really remember the differences between all of these routes, but in amongst them there was some. Ross did a lead. Ross did an E3 where it was like toe-foot wall, so you've got this big overhanging wall, and you sort of traverse like a flake line going through it gracefully. So you're kind of always in balance. You do like a hard pull to then be in a state of balance again, and then traverse along, all while on an overhanging wall, which is pretty cool. Minimal gear, I seem to remember. He did a good bold lead on that. Yeah, that was a good route by Ross. I did a really good E3 which I enjoyed, where the only UKC log in the past 5 years or something, it was just dreadful. E3 5B, no stars, very mossy but dry. But dry. And again, it was a type of route I really enjoy in the first place, and was probably very good for the state of trad I was in. Hadn't done a lot of trad climbing at the time, so my strength was really quite low, but my mind game was always quite strong, so it played into it because it's basically like an HVS, so a climb that I know I could happily solo, but because there's no gear, it gets E3. It's quite fun. So what did it feel like? So it started off, you're on a slab, and it's lichenous, but I think every single handhold, you've got clean rock on, so it's never actually really an issue. You pull through each of these clean handholds, there's no bolts on it, it's just trad gear, but I think on the entire route I just placed 2 nuts. So the first one I did was like a shallow gold placed sideways, so like about pinky size kind of thing. Placed that in, and I was like, oh, okay, that's not too great, I'll just go get some more gear. Rammed it in, if you pulled it out, it would just pop straight out. I think straight down would be okay. So you'd have had to take a kind of trad fall on a slab, where if you think you're going to fall, you just kind of jump a little bit, just to get away from the rock so you don't like get your tiptoes on it and get pinged backwards, but not far enough that you end up pulling the rope really far away from the wall and ripping your gear out. So that was the start. I then, I think, mantled past it and climbed out right, and I was getting up to what I thought was some good gear. So then I did these moves where you're like, oh, this is the last moment where I should down climb if I don't think I can do it, or it's slabby slate, I know I can get to that, just keep going. So I did, got to these good holds, and there wasn't any gear there. I think I did try and get in a gold offset on my left hand side, kind of like this, placing it like here and tugging it down, and then the next move was like a mantle above it and then step through, and in doing that this little gold offset pulled out, so that was fun. But then it mellows down a bit and it's like the S5A to the top. So after that I just had a good time going between edges, get to the top, woohoo! I've only placed 1 bit of gear, so I really enjoyed that. That was a good reminder that I do enjoy trad climbing heaps, and I'm good at certain parts of it like that. What came next? Oh yes, I then did an E3 where it was really hard and really bold, very 3D, so you're kind of in a groove and you're going around in a ret, and I placed some gear and like jumped across this chasm and felt scared, and then you go up to some like big booming flakes like this, and you go as high as you can on the booming flakes and get your feet up, and then there's like a groove that goes up here, and you're aiming to sort of like walk your way up this slab of slate, which is at like a really steep angle like that. So you kind of got to get into that, and there's a bolt just out of reach, so I think I managed to clip it, get my rope in, and I did like the scary move, like stepping across, getting a foot onto the arete, and then you stood up on the arete, and this is like the Tech 6A part. Can't figure out what to do from there, and I was like on the sidewall here where the groove meets, I was like desperately prying at this this tiny like hairline crack, and as I was prying, like thinking I was like, oh, I'm about to slip, the entire rock came out, and it was like that kind of width, that kind of depth, so it went into the rock like 6 inches or so, and it was about 2 feet long, so I ended up like stood on these tiny little precarious holds going, ugh! Like pulling out like a piano keyboard size thing. So I think I lobbed that off, and then it left like a perfect cam slot, so the scary bit was doing the move without the bolt clip. So you could probably reach around, place like a red cam in it, and probably get a hand jam in it, but definitely lay back the hell out of it. And I think when Ross did it, that's how he did it. He reached around, lay back, and pulled through, and then you've got like a hand jam to move off, something like that. So that definitely brought the difficulty down, so that's worth going and doing, because that is now a more amenable and less scary route. And then the top of that, I think I was just happy. I was topping out going like, oh, that was, nearly fell off, and then I didn't, so that was really good. And I think that must have been the final route of the day, because we then hid in a goat shelter at the very top of Australia, and eventually James and Nelly appeared, and they'd been doing a very trad day out, which is I think an E1, E1 5B, that has a similar idea. It starts at the bottom, goes all the way to the top. And they'd had a fantastic day. I think we've been climbing since 8 a.m. until 11:30 or 10:30, 9 till 11:30. So 2.5 hours of climbing, but we'd each done 9 routes, so like 150 meters of vertical. And I loved the fact that we were, moving through a place, and the climbing that we were doing didn't really matter so much. It was more like we've got to coil this rope, and we've got to go, we've got to do these cool moves, we've got to do them pretty quickly, and then we've got to eat, and then we've got to go, and then we've got to, it's raining, we've got to shelter. So I really enjoyed all that aspect of it, which meant that the next day, when everyone else went to Gogarth, we still wanted to go to the Slate, so we went back. And we did a similar idea where we did heaps of routes are all around the quarries, but we cherry picked them. So we moved from, we started on Bela Lugosi's Dead, which is the E1 down in the Colossus area. I think we did that second, because first we did an E1 just to the side of it, which was entirely climbed on ivy for like the middle section, because you like scramble up easy rock, and then there's this groove which has just got you can't see the groove because it's just so full of like thick like trunks of ivy. There's no gear in the rock, there's no holes on the rock. I'm allergic to ivy, so you end up just pulling on the ivy and then occasionally wrapping a sling around the biggest bit, clipping into that, and that's your gear. So then if your handhold breaks, then your gear breaks, and then you hit the floor. So it was thought-provoking. And there was one foothold that I had like this beside my gear, where I stood on 2 smaller pieces of ivy, and it popped out, and that was quite scary. But that was a good warm-up because the crag was wet. The ivy wasn't as wet as it could have been, and was grippier than when wet slate. So you top out, ab down. Bela Lugosi was dry. So Ross led that, had a fantastic time. Really liked Bela Lugosi. And then we did the one next to it, which was a designer danger bolt route. So I think 2 bolts on 15 meters. After that we did Pull My Daisy. Ross has never done that before. But in the end, this day, we did a load of cool routes. Pull My Daisy, German Schoolgirl, which I really enjoyed. It's like Cenotaph Corner, but a bit harder and a bit shorter and a bit easier. And then, what did we do then? And then we went up to the Lunan Tube area. So we did Goose Creature and Zooming the Tube, and I really, really enjoyed Zooming the Tube. Definitely my kind of style of climbing, like spaced bolts, and at each bolt you just like try to desperately reach it to clip it, and then when you do clip it, it's like, oh, massive relief. Hard moves around the bolts. And I went all the way up to the Gorbals level and finished in the dark on this really cool, again, bolted designer E3. So that day we deliberately did more chosen climbs which we really wanted to do, but the experience is very similar to the previous day where we'd been just like moving. And again we got to the same goat shelter that we'd sheltered in the previous day and sat in that, and instead of going home just chatted for an hour, which was super nice. And eventually when we did walk home, we walked all the way from the top of Slate Quarries back down to the house in Llanberis, through the quarries and then along the high street through the town. And the whole experience that day was lovely, like starting early. I think we woke up at 6 or 7, started climbing at 9 and climbed until 7, 8 p.m, got back at 9 p.m, had dinner and fell asleep. It was glorious. And I think we both deliberately wanted to have days like that where we were where like the movement and the adventure of the day is as much a joy as the climbing that you do. So it felt to me like we were training for like speed climbing on El Cap, something like that, or like big walling in Greenland, where you're doing lots of pitches and you're moving between them efficiently, and they are all each like good hard routes, but that's kind of just like a proxy for the good day that you get to have, like moving through them, like feeling efficient and having a great time with a pal. So having 2 days feeling like that was really nice, and it's definitely what I want to do more of in the future, like try and design days where you're doing cool routes, and it's a great great climbing, but like the adventure and the struggle of the day is really fun. So that was 2 days in the Slate.